Welcome to Delaware County Political News. This is Larry DeMarco, your host. Larry, you're a three-peat guest on Delaware County Political News.
It's great to be back again, Larry. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being a guest. Larry, it's your second annual fundraiser for your nonprofit. Tell me about the nonprofit and what caused you to start it.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Larry, for having me back on your show, and thank you, Dante, for permitting me to interrupt your bedtime stories and indulging.
We're past his bedtime. He is actually bogarting your time. So, but your thought is appreciated.
I've been there. So yes, a couple of years ago, we lost our son, Brendan. He was 23, and we lost him to a heroin overdose after his 2-year struggle in recovery. And so, as you said, last year we had our first fundraiser, and you were nice enough to have me on to promote that. It was a Bowl for Brendan event, and we raised a couple $1,000s. And the Opioid Crisis Action Network is our nonprofit, and one of its missions is to raise money for people in recovery who want to seek treatment, but they can't afford it. So they don't have the proper insurance, or they just can't afford best practices treatment. And so we've written checks with that benefit last year with Bowl for Brendan. We raised a few $1,000s. We wrote a $1,000 check to a new sober living home that was located in Darby, and Shanette Dixon Perella moved her home, which is now called Serenity and Recovery, to Chester. So we wrote her a check for $1,000 for one of her residents who couldn't afford the rent. So it adds a benefit to somebody who's in treatment, but maybe shouldn't go home in a non-structured environment, maybe shouldn't go to a place where there are influences that could lead someone away from the recovery lifestyle that they're seeking. So the sober living home provides them with structure that they need. So we're enabling that to happen. It's when people can't afford the rent, we help them and subsidize that rent for the sober living home. So whether it's treatment or whether it's a sober living home, that's one of the missions of the Opioid Crisis Action Network, is to help people who are in recovery seeking treatment or sober living home. And that's why we're doing our second annual fundraiser.
If people want more information, they can go to this link to go to your website.
Absolutely.
Right?
The opioidcrisisactionnetwork.com is the website they can go for all the information about our nonprofit.
Great. Now tell us about what's coming up on Sunday evening, November 15th.
17th.
17th.
Yeah.
At the
Ardmore Music Hall. One of my best friends from college has donated his time to our fundraiser, and he's going to be performing. He and his group are going to be performing at the Ardmore Music Hall on the 17th to help us raise money.
Great.
And his name's George Kilby Jr.
Okay.
And his group's called the Road Dogs. And he's a master of the blues, international performer. He's performed all over the world for the last 40 years. And he's called a master of country rock or southern rock, rockabilly. I call him a master of the blues, and a lot of people do. And also playing warm-up will be a lifetime neighbor of mine, John Woodman, and he has a dad band, they call it, because he's his band, a bunch of guys our age and who are dads, and they play classic rock cover music, and they're very popular in Delaware County in the Havertown area. They're a local band, local dad band, and they're called the Unskunkables. So they have a website you can see with some of the music they play. And so they'll be the warm-up band, and George Kilby Jr. and the Road Dogs will be the headliner. And it'll be a lot of fun.
Good.
A lot of good music, a lot of good fun at a great place, the Ardmore Music Hall, and for a reasonable price and for a great cause. That's another thing that our nonprofit does, is it puts together a platform to enable and promote best practices treatment for addiction, for those suffering from substance use disorder. And over 100 people running for office in 2018 signed on to our platform and endorsed it. We don't endorse candidates, but we send them our platform, ask them if they endorse it, and if they endorse it, we promote them on our website. So we had Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, over 100 of them to endorse our platform in 2018. And so we want to educate the public about what are best practices for the treatment of substance use disorder and enable people who are seeking treatment, best practice treatment, to be covered by insurance or by Medicaid or Medicare. So that's really, in a nutshell, what we're fighting for. And that's a life sentence. I'll be fighting for that, and my wife and I will be fighting for that the rest of our lives. I think the running for office part of it's over, but she and I will be running this nonprofit, and,
Sure.
and our daughter Shelby will be running this nonprofit for the rest of our lives to help people that were in Brendan's position and in our position as families of someone fighting addiction. So,
And getting candidates on the record to state where they stand.
yeah, and educating the voter, educating the candidates about a policy that makes sense. If we want to stop talking about the opioid crisis in the present tense, we want to think about it as something that we solved and we addressed. It shouldn't be a crisis forever. We should do something about it and solve this problem.
So this sounds like a great time, a lot of fun. How do we get tickets to go?
Well, you can buy tickets on our website, the Opioid Crisis Action Network, or you could go to brownpapertickets.com and put in the event at the Ardmore Music Hall, George Kilby Jr. and the Road Dogs, and you can get tickets that way.
Larry, thank you for holding the fundraiser. Thank you for starting the nonprofit and for being a guest on Delaware County Political News.
Thanks, Larry. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dante.
Everyone, if you intend on going, or if you think it's an event that we just can't miss like I do, make sure you forward this to all the friends on your Facebook page and contact list. Tune in next time. Signing off. Bye for now.